Okay, you're looking for the real pros and cons of living in California? Oh man, I'm going to give you some of the top pros and cons that I have about living in California and stay to the end because you're going to hear some real cons that are probably going to want to make you run away that you've never heard before. Let's go. What's up, everyone? My name is Cameron Hodge. On this channel, I talk about moving to and living in San Diego, California, specific to those in the military and those looking to move and relocate their money to and from San Diego, California. I absolutely love it. Drop videos for you every single week, trying to help you when making the move out here, whether you have the choice or not, for those in the military, or you're looking to move and relocate your money to and from this area. I absolutely love it. But what I love even more, being a licensed real estate agent in California is helping you with those real estate decisions. Some are popping up below. How you can get a hold of me, you can call me, text me, email me. Does not matter. Whatever you need, I'm here to help you when making those decisions in San Diego, California. Okay, so getting into the video, I just wanted to shoot a video talking about the pros and cons of living in California. I lived all the way in Fresno when I first got stationed out here in California, going to the Bay Area, traveling around in Northern California a bunch, and also went before settling it finally in San Diego, where I met my wife, and also when I was stationed here in the military. And I've learned a lot about California, a lot of things that I didn't know were true, and a lot that I found out that surprised me, and some that unfortunately showed me that were true that I wish weren't. But I'm here to talk about all of that in this video, and at the end I'm going to talk about all the cons, so basically stay for that. But we'll start with the pros. So pro number one, obviously the weather. Really obvious one. Gonna get it out of the way first. The weather's gorgeous. Look, I will say I don't like how dry it is. I wish there was some more rain, but it's a place where you live here. Obviously, there's so many different parts of the state. There's desert, there's coastal, there's like in Northern California, you can get some, when you're closer to Oregon border and Eureka. But look, it's gorgeous. Like, I've never lived in a state where so often, like I am actually living here for a couple of years and starting to have kids here and things like that. I forgot what it's like to have to cancel birthday parties or like relocate them all inside and find a place to do that because of weather changes. You just book a time here and you automatically assume it's going to be okay. And when it's not okay, you're like, what the heck happened? Why is this the one day it's raining today? So that's one of the greatest things I think about California that I will never take away from it, is the fact that the weather is just gorgeous. Sometimes, sure, you'll get the Santa Ana winds. It'll be dry. The smog can suck because it's, God, especially in LA. But overall, the sun is insane. I mean, blue skies are nuts. Look, the weather is extremely beautiful. Obviously, it does also cause a lot of wildfires because it doesn't rain here as much, but that's also the climate that has always been in California. You can look at records of when, travelers first came to California, not the Native Americans, of course, but when travelers first came here, actually Native Americans as well, but they have stories about how, it was just on fire. And it always has been on fire. It's the natural environment, especially in Southern California. It just happens. It's supposed to happen. But it's unfortunate when obviously man-made fires start, because that should not happen. But other than that, the weather's just beautiful. If you want to book a party next month, who cares what the weather's going to be like? It's probably going to be beautiful. The biggest thing you have to worry about is what month is it? Oh, it's August? Probably going to be hot. Oh, it's December? Might be a little chilly in the 60s. But the temperature is the only thing you think about. You don't think about, oh, is it going to rain? Is it not going to rain? If it's during the winter, it might. It definitely gets rainy during the winter, but personally, I like that it rains during the winter, but coming up this year, 2022, we're looking to have a 75-degree Christmas. And now I love snow. That's okay. You want snow? Great. You can go to Big Bear, kind of, not so much anymore, I'll be honest with you, but you can go to Lake Tahoe. You can go in a different state. You can travel to see snow. You get a good weekend of it, and then you come back to the coast, and you're like, okay, that was nice. I'm good back in the 75-degree weather. You have those options. Really, really cool. All right, number two, and that is the activities. There's a lot to do in California. So it depends on what you like to do. Now, this is a pro because there's a lot to do for most people. I'm not most people, obviously. I have some issues with it, but I will get to that at the end of the video. But the activities, obviously, Disneyland, SeaWorld in San Diego. Big Bear, Lake Tahoe. You have Big Sur, and you have the coastline, the beach. there's a lot to, Legoland. Like, there's a lot to do here in California, in the whole state. It's massive. What is it, like the second or third largest economy in the world? It's crazy. But there's just so much to do here in California, and it's awesome. I mean, amusement parks, hiking, fishing, lakes. I mean, there's a lot to do. You can't take away the fact of how much there is to do. Love camping? There's a ton of it. You can head all up and down the West Coast in California. A lot to do, especially if you like city scenes. Ton of that too. The whole coastline's one big city to me. I mean, I grew up in the country of New York, so to me, it's one big city. A lot of restaurants, a lot of downtowns, a lot of things to do, bars, coffee shops, you name it, there's a place for it here in California. Okay, the third pro is the quality of life. Oh God. So this is with a caveat, but generally people are like, man, if they're from California, they think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Like, they love it. And obviously from an outsider, I have an outside perspective, but a lot of people here are generally healthier than a lot of cities that I've grown up in, and they just absolutely love living here. And all, when I mean the quality of life, it's the fact that like people are just generally a lot healthier here. Like, there's still a lot of unhealthy people, but overall, like if you are someone who loves staying and exercise and just being healthy and having access to quality medical services, it's not something that struggles in California. Sure, medical costs are high, insurance costs are high, but at least you know you have good quality of care in most practices, or you have options to different types of care, especially in San Diego with Raised Children. We've definitely had to take our kids there. One of our kids had a heart condition at birth. So there's a lot of options here that I can't take away from it. People are generally healthier, and there's a lot of options to stay healthy in California than compared to a lot of other states, especially when it's in the middle of nowhere, like the Midwest and things like that. Not getting better, but California still has a lot of things going for it in that respect. Okay, number 4, and that is the economic opportunity in California. So this is obviously a double-edged sword, but when it comes to finding jobs and tech jobs and things like that, California still, while people talk about all these businesses leaving like Tesla and things like that, there's still a lot of jobs and big companies that are here in California that provide very good incomes for the cost of living. The biggest thing is finding them. But I can also tell you, obviously the hardest thing when it comes to being a business owner in California, as myself, is obviously the hardest thing is you might not get the volume that you have in other states because people generally can't afford things are expensive. So maybe instead of doing 100 of something, 50 or whatever, you do half of that. But the cost for services, it can be higher and things like that, or the pay tends to be higher. So that cost of living kind of flips on its head and can be a good thing, but obviously it depends on what you do for a living and your work. But obviously this is still the largest economy out of all the states, meaning there's still a lot of opportunity to have here. The hardest thing is going to be breaking into that opportunity, in my opinion. So it's a pro, and I made it a pro because the opportunity is there to make good money at a job or a tech position or something else in a career, or a college opportunity for state schools and things like that. But you need to be aware of the fact that obviously there's a caveat, and that it probably will take you harder to get broken into that industry or getting into that good job here. Maybe not, right? The one thing I think I see a lot of millennials doing is they're leaving the state to get established, and then they're starting to come back as they hit later in life. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's really smart, especially if you get that work experience and you're coming back into the state to use that experience to get a good paying jobs that kind of supplements for the high cost of living here in the state. And a 5th pro that I think living in California is there's a ton of sports teams. So if you like hockey, football, baseball, all the way from San Francisco down to San Diego, there are a lot of opportunities. Heck, even if you're like me and you're I really don't want to go to LA to watch a Sabres game, well, you can drive to Vegas, right? You can go to Phoenix. There's cities within 6 hours of driving time, which I know it seems like a lot, but it's really not that bad to go to all these different cities, these senior sports teams. So you will have an opportunity to attend a Super Bowl, to attend any other major sporting event between Vegas, Phoenix, and all of California. There's a lot of opportunities for sports. So if you love sports, great opportunity. Obviously, cities like San Diego, you have the Padres, but that's it. So keep in mind that obviously cities like LA and San Francisco areas are going to have heavier of the sports teams in recent years. But again, you still have so much opportunity for sports. So if you're like me and you love sports, when you're in your free time, work is great, but you love having that sports in the free time, you have a lot of opportunity to see different sports teams out here and events. And actually, it's not just sports teams that's a pro here. It's all events. There's so many events going on. There's always you literally can go on to any Eventbrite and Facebook, and you're going to see tons of events and festivals and things like that. And I encourage you, within a 6-hour driving distance, like, you can see so many big opportunities between concerts and things like that. A lot of things going for it. Okay, now we're going to get into the cons, which is really where I'm going to rip into this. So obviously I'm not from California, so this is very an outside opinion, but there are a lot of things that I hold true to myself, especially being an American, and we're going to rip into it right now. So the first one, cost of living. It's an expensive state. It's obnoxiously expensive. And it's not just because of like the cost of goods, like the whole country. Like, taxes are freaking high here. And this state loves its taxes. And for some reason, people love to vote on taxes. So like, this is the price for paradise. I'm so tired of hearing that. And unfortunately, there's just not a big enough movement yet to reduce the tax burden. People love their taxes. They love like all these things that just increase their costs, and they just don't think about it. So unfortunately, it is not a cheap place to live. Now, obviously, if you can make, like I say, if you're making over 6 figures, maybe it's not a big deal to you, right? If you're making under 200 grand a year, you're probably going to be having a comfortable life here in California. But if you're under 6 figures, you're going to have a hard time here. Like, there's going to be something you have to give up when moving here. And people might not like that. It doesn't mean you can't live a good life making less than 6 figure years, because guess what? Most people do. But like, I've just never seen a place where so many people, like multiple families living in one household, people like always having credit card debt, always struggling to survive. And sometimes it is just your own personal knowledge and acceptance. And trust me, I've been down that road, and I really believe you have to take responsibility for your own actions. But holy cow, like, it's insane. Like, people are 35 still living with their parents, and it's absolutely insane. This place is not cheap, and no one knows that. But I also am of the opinion that you can't sit here and complain if it's expensive to live here. Move somewhere else if you can't afford it. Just my opinion. That's what's so great about the United States. Each state has its own good and bad things. Find which one aligns with you and don't live here. But it is a huge con. It's expensive here. And a lot of times it comes down to government regulation and taxes. Con number 2, and that's the traffic. This whole state in any livable area is one giant city. And it is nothing but congestion. Every highway, oh my God. Like, when COVID hit and I was still here, and we'll get to some other things later here, but the traffic just disappeared. And driving places were just so nice. Like, there's no traffic. And I'm like, I could almost enjoy living. There's a lot of great things about living here, but like, that traffic just gets to me. I grew up in the country, right? My town had one flashing red light and one actual stoplight. And it's obnoxious how much traffic there is here in this state. And San Diego might not be as bad as LA, but it's so annoying when you have to go somewhere and one accident just shuts down the freeway for an hour. All right, con number 3 is obviously natural disasters. Now, California, in the short term, it's not going to be something that's really going to hit you. But depending where you live, wildfires can be a huge issue. So understand that if you're living farther away from city centers, wildfires are an increased risk. And it's something that you just have to be aware of. Your insurance is going to be higher. Your costs are going to be higher. And the inevitable risk of eventually losing your house to a fire is there. So make sure you understand that is a real thing. You have to be aware of that. And they've restructured their fire zones, and it is not getting cheaper for insurance. And some insurance companies are like, hey, we're not even going to give you fire insurance anymore. So you have to be careful and understand that is a huge risk here in California. You can't just be like, I'm going to go live in the country, because they punish you for that, because it's just expensive. And insurance companies hedge their risk by charging you more. Also, the big one, eventually there will be a giant, massive earthquake that just shatters California. It's just like big hurricanes that hit Florida. It's eventually going to happen here in California. So people seem to ignore that fact. Also, including natural disasters, is the drought. California, we haven't been able to profitably desalinate water to use for fresh water. I think eventually that'll come down the road and be worth it. But at this current time, it's more profitable for them to pump water into the state. But keep in mind, every lake I go to is like lowering levels, getting smaller and smaller, less rainfall. It is forever affecting California in that way. But the water thing is something I think people don't talk about enough, and it's a huge con here because, look at San Diego. They're currently building a system to reuse their sewage water and put it straight back into fresh water. Grosses people out, but this is the same thing they do in like the Middle East and desert countries already. So don't get too grossed out by it, but it's a real thing. Like San Diego and a lot of other cities in California are turning their sewage water, not their crap water, but like their gray water, and they're cleaning it out, purifying it, and putting that back into drinking water, because it is a huge issue here in California. No one really wants to talk about it too much. Eventually, because humans are humans, we will find a way, right? Like, people are like, oh, everyone will just leave California. No, what'll happen is things will continue to get expensive, kick out people that are broke, and eventually it'll be a huge issue to where it affects everyone, and then they will be like, hey, we have to figure out a way to desalinate water cheaply, and it'll eventually come around. I have faith in humans in that way, but understand that until we get to that point, it is just going to be a painful endeavor, because it's definitely a huge issue around the globe. Is like water levels are dropping. It's fresh water. So going to be really interesting to see how that plays out as time goes on. All right, con number 4 to me is, well, so just basic American rights. So obviously I love owning guns. I believe every American has the right to own firearms, and California is not one of those states. So obviously I met my wife here. I moved here in the military and stayed here, but this is not a gun-friendly state. So if you really love firearms and you really believe you have an American right to own one, this is not going to be the state for you. California is severely against it. And if you like it, have at it. Move here with increasing crime levels and things like that. It is a state that constantly just makes, and the thing that frustrates me most as well about the state when it comes to those issues is this is a state of like, there's no black and white. It's so gray, right? Like police and border patrol get special access to firearms that the regular people can't get, even though they get less training than someone that's been in the military serving overseas. And it's just all these little loopholes, and it's so dumb. Like, you can conceal carry, but only if the reason makes sense to them. It's just this state, like, they can't just say yes or no. Like, they create these weird loopholes for certain people to get access to us. And that's one thing that blew me away in California. It's the haves and the have-nots. It's not just, hey, we don't believe this should exist. It's like, oh, well, certain people can have access to it. It's like, look, it shouldn't be certain people anything. Like, we're all Americans. So we all can or cannot do stuff based on a state laws. Now, I agree that if you don't like it, go somewhere else. And, it is what it is. But understand that obviously there's a huge fight movement here to kind of bring California back to what it used to be. So, but remember, if you really love firearms, this might not be the state for you, and you need to look elsewhere. Con number 5 is just overall governance. So, and I mean this in a lot of different ways, right? And I'm not saying Republican or Democrat. No, this is not political. I love looking at facts. And California, according to Forbes.com, is in the top 10 states with the most debt. Meaning that when they have their budget every year, and let's say easy math, $1 million, they're spending more than their income. And California, now this last year, they did have a surplus, so that's great. But overall, California has not done a good job managing their funds, and they have gone into a lot of debt in that. And you look at even the city of LA, right? Like, they have a huge pension scam that happened like 5 years ago or so. I had to look it up again. But there's a lot of things going on in the state that just aren't run well. Or during COVID, everything locked down. I saw like 50, 60-year family businesses just get wiped off. And then who moves in? Big companies. So, and I think we all can agree, like, we need more small business. And unfortunately, I don't think the state has really led up to that. And they've shown before, even right now, LA is considering an indoor mask mandate again. And I don't agree with how much forcefulness the government comes in and brings into those facts. But you have to understand that is a huge con. The fact that this state really believes that they should mandate everything. It doesn't matter what it is. Like, they force you to try and do certain things. And like, I don't like how the small business just really isn't supported in this state. And that goes for any, like, it doesn't matter what group, it doesn't matter. That's something that's a huge con in the state. And understand that if you're looking to move your money here, or even if you're in the military and you're being, okay, you got orders to come here, great place temporarily, but you really need to focus. Now, money can be made here, smart decisions can be made here, and great lives can be had here. You just have to understand that there are these pros and cons to everything. You have to see, do they fit your situation? Do they fit your plan? Because if they don't, I get it. And that's why I also maintain businesses in other states and other operations, because I love helping people when they leave here, right? Like, it is so important to be hedged across different places. It doesn't mean you can't live here. Just make sure you have your eggs in multiple baskets. There's nothing wrong with that. So I hope you got value in this video. I hope it gave you some insights into the pros and cons of California. Obviously, it goes one way. Like, my cons might be your pros. My pros might be your cons. It really doesn't matter. If this is a good insight to get the conversation flowing, if you disagree with any of this and you just want to yell at me, go ahead and leave me a comment below and I may read it or not. I hope you got value. If you're looking to move to San Diego, or you are looking to get your money to or from California, this number popping up below so I can get a hold of me. Call me, text me, email me. Me and the team are here to help you with those decisions. I absolutely love it. It's what I do for a living. So reach out. Let's have that conversation, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.